Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where I review anything and everything. And today I just wanted to get into a little bit of discussion in regards to this new Lego Lord of the Rings set. Now, I wasn't actually going to do any kind of talking points onto this because I know I'm a little late to it, but I never was planning on doing any kind of talking points on it. But I see a lot of people discussing it with a lot of positive thoughts and a positive reviews on it. And at least as far as the set is not out yet, but just talking points, or those who had received the set early have a lot of positive thoughts on the set. But for me, I happen to have a few thoughts about it that kind of go against what a lot of the other reviewers think about it. And so, one, a lot of people praise it for being scroll through here a little bit. Let's just go see pass through some of these photos real quick. There's a lot of photos on here too for this. I just want to land on a good one real quick, so I could focus on the point that I wanted to say. All right, so this is a good one. So, a lot of people speak to the fact that they did a great job with combining mini scale and micro scale, minifig scale and micro scale, as far as the set goes. And I think that that actually is a positive thing. But this is just me as a person who loves the idea of Lego sets having a lot of space for play, even if a person's not going to play with it, but being able to just kind of immerse yourself into that space and immerse yourself from the idea of the minifigure being used. So when you kind of put them in locations, it's like you feel like that's, you taking a tour of that location. For example, if you have like say a Star Wars set, we'll say like the Millennium Falcon, the play minifigure or play scale set. We'll say play scale usually, from my understanding, means not minifigure scale as if minifigures are in scale with a regular human being in regards to that, but more so in the sense of just that it's playable on the scale of for regular play. And even on that level, you take something like the Millennium Falcon. 2019 was the last Millennium Falcon, or you could speak on the Dark Millennium Falcon, which is the same size. If you take a minifigure and you just kind of put them inside the interior and you walk them around, don't mind, my screen blanks out. So I'm not really good with the whole having, automated kind of photos. I just kind of do it like this on basic. So don't mind, you guys bear with me. But having a minifigure where you're able to just kind of put them, like say in the Millennium Falcon, and you just kind of put them in certain spots. Maybe you have them in a seat sitting there, or you have them now doing a different activity in it. And even though you're just kind of posing them there, but it's nice, the imagination of this little figure could be me walking around in it. And you're just kind of I don't know if people get what I'm trying to say, but when you're using your imagination, you just kind of set up little scenes going on within the interior that kind of get your imagination going, the idea of yes, this is a figure inside this situation, inside this scene that I'm building, that I'm just imagining, where you want to kind of sit there and look at it. You don't want to just sometimes look at a Lego display without interaction, because then yes, there's nothing wrong with that, but it definitely becomes more of a an item that's just there for display visually without interaction, where some people like being able to interact with their displays. So with that being said, even though I think it looks nice, I like how this bottom area here behind that first layer of the gate is play scale. I think that they should have, similar to the Lion Knight's castle, I think they should have made more area play scale. And that's just my only kind of gripe with it. So for example, this next aisle here, I think should have came out a little bit more to make the walking path play scale, even if the rest of the display is minifig scale. I think the same with that aisle here. Should have been a little bit more wider coming outwards for figures to stand on. Maybe you didn't have to do it on this top layer one here, but then I would have also made this area here, I would have made that castle area here a little bit bigger to be to be play scale size. It didn't have to necessarily be that much. Let me try to find a different shot. So it didn't need to be necessarily like super huge, but big enough to where maybe that background building could have been a solid, maybe it's looking like there. I don't know that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like it's 10 studs wide. They tried to make it very detailed in a micro scale version. I would say that it could have been maybe one stud on each side longer, but just make it less detailed and would have made it like a doorway that a minifigure could fit in. Maybe made it as wide as, or like the depth of it being maybe a good, maybe like 6 studs, not include, like we'll say if you're including like the front right there of the building in the back, then that would take up 1 stud layer, and then maybe the rest could be 5 studs of interior space. That way it gives that vibe that a minifigure can walk through the door. It won't be to scale, but it would give that. I know it'd start mixing a bunch of proportions. That's just me. Not everyone's gonna agree with where my thoughts are with this, but the tree could have been maybe a little bit bigger. This could have been a little bit wider at that top portion here, but then the arch coming out could have been then a little bit more wider. It wouldn't have fit the regular shape, like the proportion shape that it is now. It probably would have been a little bit more like wider, and then and then come to a point. So this proportion would have probably looked more like a fat triangle than it would have like a very slim one to its proportion. But you would have then been able to maybe have like a few figures on it. And I'm just thinking kind of like the Lion Knight's castle, how that's not trying to fit to any kind of proportions or anything, but it had a lot of, it was huge. Price wise was less than this. And I get that this is a branded, set, but at the same time, I almost feel like the Lion Knight's castle had a lot of deck space where you could put a lot of figures. And I feel like with this being about $250 more than that, I feel like you could have kind of got away with that within the aisles, like I mentioned, even if it's some of the smaller displays are micro scale. I feel they could have got away with that, making that part like a little bit bigger. Like it could have maybe came out a little bit more, been a little more wider. I would have emphasized that more just so you got people on it. The details would have still been micro scale, but the walkways would have been play scale. And then also too, I think this should have came with a lot more minifigures. When you look at the Lion Knight's castle that has so many figures, I don't think there's any reason why they couldn't have had at least about a good, let's see, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. I don't see why they couldn't have had at least a good, I would say 25 figures for this set, especially for the price. You could have had maybe a few more main figure characters who would have been on the scene. So maybe Legolas, I know I'm pronouncing that right, probably wrong, but Legolas, or Gimli as well. Obviously, some of the other smaller hobbits weren't there, so I get that in terms of beings of the scene. But then I would have, other than those, I would have made all the rest some of the orcs. All the orcs on the other side, so that way they could be on the other side of the castle. I just really think that for the price, this set is just definitely overpriced. Because when you really compare it to the Lion Knight's castle, I think the Lion Knight's castle, yes, it's not a branded theme, but I still think that $250 difference, even if you were to say this is going to be $650, Lion Knight's castle was $400 if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was $400 even. Correct me if I'm wrong, so the comments down below. But at $400 versus $250, $250 difference, even if you said that $250 was just for the IP, for the brand, I would then say, cool. But now make the set have as many minifigures as the $400 set for that increased $250 price. I think they could have done it. So I think it's a good set, but I do think that I think the compromise on it was done very well. This is just me kind of nitpicking on the idea that giving it a little bit more play skill aspects in certain areas. That's all. But anyway, what are your guys' thoughts? As always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.